So I think the discussion is a good one about the boy child and their predicaments today. We know that we are seeing a lot of increased cases of mental health disorders among the boy child, behavior changes. In the past, the boy child would suffer things to do with failing, refusing to go to school. But right now we are seeing an increased use of drugs, increased use of, we are seeing boys even fearing to commit in issues to do with marriage, and that's the youth. So do we think that this is a problem that is coming as a result of the boy having been neglected right from the foundation stage, or it is something bigger, or we are actually not supposed to worry about it?
But the boy child is not maybe affected by drugs, but also self-esteem.
Yes.
You find they're not as confident, they're not as outspoken. There's a generational gap between our parents and the baby boomers and the millennials, and even down to the it's called Gen Z. Yes, you find the boys are more laid back, they are more timid. I think because the focus has been mainly on the girl child, we've failed to give the boys the boost, the confidence, the belief that they are equal partners in society, and as such, we've lost the whole argument.
Guys, for me, I kind of disagree. And I'm like kind of with Dickens on this one. I think for me the whole thing is that women in society have started to become accepted and are claiming their place. Same thing with girls. So I think in a sense there might be an overreaction from men and boys. Entire society is at risk when it comes to drugs, alcohol, esteem and skills. It's the entirety of society. And we find that if we speak about the boy child as a single unit, we may not address the real background problem. The real background problem, if I'm talking about reading culture, the real background problem is women have taken their domestic role and family role very seriously. Fathers have not. It's not about the boys. It's about the fathers. You find that who does the homework, who reads with the children, who goes for school days, who organizes things for visitation. I think the whole conversation, if we're talking about the boy child, should be centered around the role of the male role model in the family and as a professional. Because that is all young children look up to, and that's what they emulate. If we are to try and distinguish the boy child from the girl child, because the girl child also sees the same thing, the two children should see the same thing, and the outcome should not be very different.
And I think the discussion here should be around equal opportunity. I think for the longest time there was the push for one gender over the rest, over the other, and now it feels like we want to do a flip of that and push back to say boys need to go back to their original place and be the breadwinner in the home and do this and that. But hasn't society moved on? Do we necessarily need to have one breadwinner in the house? Why shouldn't these roles actually be shared across the board? And therefore, when we begin to make arguments for things like education, for example, it should be equal opportunity for both. It should not be one being favored over the other because you're thinking the boy child must be the best. So when results come out and there are 10 girls who have performed better than boys, you're like, oh my God, the boys have lost their place in society. Is that the case? Or is it a case of the world has moved, we should accept and work hard together, not just leave it to one gender over the other, but actually work hard together, give equal opportunity to both, push the boys to do education as much as the girls do the education, study to their best, and at the end of the day, if the girl has performed better than the boy, who should even be keeping tabs of whether the girl or the boy performed better? Should that even be an issue for debate? Why are we discussing that? Is that to say the boys should be more intelligent than the girls, or the girls should be more intelligent than the boys? Shouldn't it be equal opportunity for all?
If you want to fix this country, go home and love your family. If we are going to uplift the boy child, it has to start with the fathers. Today, fathers have taken a laid-back position on raising children. All we focus on is how to make money, ensure the children have everything they need, and we don't have active participation in their lives. Back in the day, you remember the fathers used to take the boys to farm, to fish, and they would pass on knowledge to them. Today, we've left this entire whole lot of responsibility on the mother. So the mother has to raise the girl child and empower the girl child, and also do the same to the boy child. You cannot send a lady to raise a man because they know little or nothing. All they know is they've been women all their lives. They cannot raise the children. If you look at the statistics world over, women are more than men. But the number of men or boys who are in drugs vis-a-vis the number of women, boys are more doing drugs. Boys are the most arrested. The prisons are more full with boys than girls. So we need to take up the responsibility of mentoring the boy child and uplifting them. We need to take back our role as men and spend time with these children and raise them. Our role in as far as girls are concerned is to show them that there is a softer side of men. That's why I say for your daughters or for our daughters, we are their first boyfriend. So we teach them how they're supposed to be loved. We're supposed to set the bar. And for the boy child, we're supposed to set the bar on how to treat a woman. So that's where we need to draw the balance without necessarily downgrading the efforts of empowering the girl child, but uplifting the boy child who has been forgotten over time.
It's because they are trying very hard to be the breadwinner.
Because they have also lost direction.
Another thing, maybe there is a conversation we are not having. Maybe we are standing at a crossroads of societal and maybe human behavioral evolution. We need to go back and redefine what makes a man, what is masculinity, what entails it, especially in these times of ours. The problem we're having, I think, we benchmarked a man basing on a male who was suitable for those times. And we think that the all macho man and, is all macho male is the person that we all need to seek in our times. Maybe, but maybe not. I mean, what does all that forceful machismo account for in times where artificial intelligence is taking over, where computer literacy is the thing? I mean, the man who held a spear and went hunting and who society benchmarked at that time, is becoming increasingly irrelevant. I think we need to first reimagine what entails masculinity and peg it to our times than just having this generic idea of who a man is.
That is so, and I think that's a strong point, and it is important that we remind ourselves of that every day, because nobody is reminding the boy child of that every day. And the idea of being equal partners is excellent, but are we seeing that are we seeing that balance happening right now? I think the dominance of the other sex for the last, I could say, 2 decades has overweighed so much on the other sex to the extent that we are seeing now a big imbalance if it's not addressed. So I think focus, and nobody should lie. We shouldn't lie ourselves that we don't need to focus a lot more on this boy child today.
I agree with you, Joe. Yes, equal opportunity for all genders, the boy child and the girl child is a fantastic thing. But what we cannot run away from is that the statistics. They show that the girl child over the years, like Ijura stated it, over the years have been outdoing the girl child. The boy child have been doing the boy child. And to me, I feel even if we have more ladies, if you look at the random distribution of how the boy child and the normal distribution of how the boy child and the girl child are developing, it should be even. It doesn't matter whether the first 2, maybe USCE or whether campus, but we should have a consistent. When you look at the normal distribution, it should be a good mix. It should be a perfect mix through the through the continent.
Whole development type
Yeah,
of.
through the spread. But if we have girls being in the a higher sector, then higher segment, and having the boy, we are basically putting our heads burying our heads in the sand, and we're not looking at the statistics, we're not looking at the trends. So let's look at the trends, because they do not lie. They are a perfect reflection of what is in our society, and it's something that we need to address.
Yes, from what Rosa said, to me I think that a boy child is responsible, or he must be uplifted and groomed by the stakeholders involved. One being the father from the grassroots, two being the surrounding stakeholders, such as the school where the boy child goes, the church or the mosque where the boy child professes from, and the campus where the boy child goes, plus the government that leads the boy child. Because without those stakeholders taking the hand, the situation will remain normal. Hence, maybe improving on the laws are available, because now the girl child has been empowered through the laws. That is pushing the responsibility to the government, because it's a stakeholder concerned when it comes to legislating the laws and the policies in that regard. Then, when it comes to the religious aspect, we need to strike a balance between the boy child empowerment and the girl child empowerment. A boy child's voice has been silenced when it comes to the religious angle. And when it goes to education, the other sex is looked at as a vulnerable sex, and a boy child is ignored. So we should see that balance in between, that yes, the other side is vulnerable, but even the boy child is vulnerable, because he goes through different challenges during his earlier times. Yes.
I think in addition to that, the different stakeholders that have empowered the boy child, the girl child, need to be brought on board to now diversify and cater for both. You realize there are more NGOs. There are more NGOs that were set up in the last 2 decades, most of which were focusing on the girl child. They were getting money paying for these girls. They would encourage schools to admit more girls and subsidize their tuition or school fees at the time and give them more benefits. Now that the girl child has taken their place in society, we need to bring back the balance and have the same NGOs, the same stakeholders, the same donors now catering for both, to see that the boy child is also now uplifted to match the status in society.
But I would ask that we keep track of the tone of the conversation that we are setting. Let us not take an adversarial stand. Let us our focus should necessarily it does not necessarily mean that for a boy child to be uplifted, we have to look at the station of where the girl is. I think whatever heady or lofty heights that the girl child has hit, it's okay with society, it's okay with us. Now, let us just maintain our focus on how to bring the boy child up. Not necessarily make it sound like the girl being where she is a bad thing. So I'm thinking that we should be mindful of that tone. When we are the tone we set, we are pegging our conversation to. It shouldn't be adversarial.
Yeah.
And I think we also need to, personally, I think we need to dig deeper into these statistics to find out, is there a real water? Has the girl child actually domineered and taken to the very top of the echelons of society? Have they actually taken over?
It is only in Makerere where they get moves.
Exactly.
If you go to Kampala
I think the sample space.
Where there is no university.
I think the sample space they use to generate these statistics is surely for us, because it serves to an interest of the person who is taking that statistic.
I think the statistic is looking in general. Look at the youth. Look at the 35 and below. Look at the man and the woman, even in the villages. Right now you see that women in society are regarded as the untouchables. They are regarded as as you don't know, let me complete my submission. The regard for a lady has changed to the extent that some men now are docile.
Yeah, so I think from the conversation we have had, I think we can all agree that we still have major structural issues which are beyond just what we've discussed here today. Because when we make arguments around, for example, NGOs paying school fees for the girl, that in itself is a flaw in the system. The tuition should be affordable such that everybody can actually be able to access school and get a good education and not just go through school and drop off after P7, because that's what has been happening in this country. After PLE, you don't even have that many people going beyond that. So I think we need to solve some structural issues, those fundamental issues of like access to education, access to good health, and all those other things that both the man and the woman should get. And then the role of the fathers in the home. The fathers need to be more present in their homes. I think we've seen some statistics in the US about kids that end up in prison and the houses not having fathers present. The chances of such a child growing up without a father ending up in prison are much, much higher. So fathers need to be more present. We need to mentor these children. We need to be available to actually help them to get to where they need to get. But still the argument is we should not forget one and focus on the other now, but that we should continue to be present and parent both the girl and the child to turn out into what we actually want them to be.
The girl and the boy.
Oh, the girl and the boy. Yeah.
I think there is nothing to add. The only thing is, I think it's our personal responsibility. Whether you were a father or a male administrator, an uncle, any man has the responsibility to contribute to the positive masculinity environment and make sure that all children take their place and take advantage of their strengths. If the girls are taking advantage of their strengths, we should make sure that the boy child is optimizing their strengths.
Personally, I believe that in all this conversation, if a lot of emphasis is not given to the family as the basic starting unit of building a society, we are losing the conversation. We can lament till the cows come back home about the structural flaws of society at the top of it, but if we neglect the foundation of it, which is family, then we have lost it. Family has to be given more emphasis if we are going to solve anything on either side of the divide, whether for a girl or for a boy. Family has to be given a lot of consideration.
Yeah, and when you talk about family, I think from this conversation, what I've picked the most, and for me, what I think should be the direction of our project, it should be creating this awareness and waking the men up to take up their responsibility. We've all agreed that the mother is doing a very good job in nurturing the girl child, preparing a girl, the Senga system, preparing a girl for marriage, but no one is there actually doing the same for a boy. Boys, we just grow up and we know we have to get married, but nobody tells us what actually father should do. It's those that have seen their fathers practice that become eventually good husbands. But those that are raised by single mothers, as an example, or absentee fathers, we see problems. So the call is for men to man up. If you're lucky to be raising a child with the mother of the child, do your job as a man. Those that may be having children outside, still provide for the children. Those that have received children from their wives, from their girlfriends, still be there as a man. Provide time for that child so that you can see that the boy child also has a father to be with them. So I think our campaign should focus on the fathers of today, so that we are not just fathers, but also become daddies. Yes.
All right. And dear,